Small businesses drive the economy, so why is it so tough to set up shop in Chicago? And what impact did the city and state's huge budget deficits have on this crucial economic engine? Pat Quinn is leaving his mark, but in what way? As the lame duck governor departs, some of his recent actions are raising eyebrows. Plus, careful what you record. Videotaping cops or even your neighbors could land you in jail if some Illinois lawmakers have their way. Stay with us for these stories and more tonight on In the Loop. Good evening, I'm Barbara Pinto. Chris Bury is on assignment this week. Small businesses create more than half of all jobs in this country, but in the state of Illinois, entrepreneurs face more hurdles than in many other states. Tonight, a closer look at what's wrong here and how the city of Chicago and the state are working to ease the burden on business owners looking to get their piece of the American pie.
Thank you for calling by Station Tapas and Sushi. How can I help you?
Asana Narkanchai came to this country from Thailand 12 years ago, hoping to live the American dream. This is it, her year-old restaurant on a busy Clark Street strip in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood. But attracting customers has not been easy.
You never know. It's every day it's different, so it's something that you can kind of have to work with.
But Asana never expected her biggest challenge would be wading through the red tape of Chicago's complicated licensing process. It took Asana 4 months to get a license to open her restaurant, and a year later, she is still waiting on a permit to install an awning out front.
I think sometimes it takes too long. There's too much process going into it, too many documents that they ask. Just make the 2 pork and 2 duck.
Asana is just one of many entrepreneurs frustrated by the long list of requirements the city and state impose on small business owners. This report, published in 2010 by the Justice Clinic on Entrepreneurship at the University of Chicago Law School, shows the litany of building permits and inspections small business owners endure to operate in the city. Just the process to install a sign outside a Chicago business is 22 steps long. Maria Guerra-Lepasic, Commissioner of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, says the city is trying to streamline its complex procedures.
In addition to cutting the red tape that businesses face here, the mayor created a more of a concierge service in our small business center. He also hired a small business chief for the city whose job it is to ensure that small businesses have a partner in City Hall, not barrier.
But the hurdles for small businesses also exist outside city limits, in a state operating with Illinois' $45 billion budget deficit.
Over the past 4 years, we have seen legislators in Springfield just not listen to the small business community, not move initiatives forward that will empower the small business community. Elliot Richardson is CEO of the Small Business Advocacy Council. He says both the city and the state have a lot of work to do to attract more entrepreneurs. The Kauffman Foundation, an organization that assists small businesses, recently gave Illinois an F for its tax code, regulations, and licenses. They may say that they're interested in what we have to say, but I'll tell you from being down there, it certainly doesn't seem like it. And the first step to improving the business perception of Illinois is to start to listen to the small business owners on the ground. Another huge hurdle for business owners is tight credit, making it tough to qualify for loans. The U.S. Small Business Administration says many small business owners have no idea they can qualify for loans ranging from $50,000 to $5 million. Marianne Markowitz, Regional Administrator for the Small Business Administration, says helping entrepreneurs succeed is important because they're vital to the economy.
Small businesses create 2/3 of all net new jobs. Over half of Americans either work for or own a small business. You know, we know with the most recent recession that it was the work of the small businesses that pulled us out of that recession into recovery. So, you know, they're the bedrock of our economy.
That's why some business owners are concerned about new laws that could chip away at their bottom line, including Chicago's decision to hike the minimum wage to $13 an hour by 2019.
It will definitely affect our businesses because it will cost us more to run the business.
Still, Asana hopes her business continues to grow. She has a message for others looking to set up shop in Chicago.
I say don't let the city stop you. If that's something that you love to do, you want to do, you have passion for it, go for it. But maybe do your homework.
Joining us today is Beth Krieger, director of the Institute for Justice Clinic on Entrepreneurship at the University of Chicago Law School. Hello and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Beth, what's wrong with Chicago and Illinois? What makes it so uniquely difficult to set up shop here?
There are so many layers of government in Chicago and in Illinois, and there's so many layers of regulation. So that a small business like that restaurant has to figure out a veritable maze of rules. The state is adding more and more. In fact, now that restaurant's going to have to get special certification for every single person from the busboy to the chef who handles food. And the city layers regulations on top of that. So it just makes it so difficult. And then on top of that, each alderman wants to take control and make all the decisions about what restaurant does what.
What's interesting here is that, everyone talks about the red tape here. How bad is it, and why does it take 22 steps to put up a sign?
Well, believe it or not, yesterday I talked to someone who owns a sign company. And so he's a small business working with small businesses. And he tells me that's changed since I made that crazy chart. There are more than 22 steps now. The city claims to be streamlining, but they're adding more and more procedure. Now, people need more signatures and more copies of more paperwork. I really struggle to understand how this comes about, but we have so many cooks in the kitchen, so many different aldermen who can add a new rule because they didn't like something that happened in their ward. And we have inspectors out there telling businesses all over the city that they didn't complete the paperwork correctly. Well, it's almost impossible to complete correctly. And businesses rely on those signs to tell people where they are, and they're being told by the city that they've got to take them down or pay enormous fines.
Oh my gosh. When you talk about this, people may be surprised to know how much sway aldermen do have in this process. What is their role in determining when and how businesses can open?
Well, we have 50 aldermen. Each one treats his ward like his own little fiefdom, and aldermen can really make or break a business. They can decide whether or not to sign off on a sign that a restaurant's going to hang, or an awning that a new hardware store is going to hang. They can make all sorts of decisions along the way to make things easier or harder for small businesses. So that's just yet another way that the process becomes a political one instead of one of courting customers and making a business innovative and creative.
When we talk about regulations, most of us want to make sure that the people who handle the food in the kitchen are certified to some extent, or that the person who's doing our nails is doing it hygienically and has a certain permit. But how much regulation is too much?
Well, regulations that are truly there and targeted to address health and safety problems are important. But what happens in Illinois, what happens in Chicago, is the rules just accumulate and accumulate. The people who are already in business often have a big say in how the laws are written, and they solidify the way that the established businesses do business, and then they make it very hard for the new guy with a small budget perhaps, or with an innovative new way to do business to break in.
We talked about the importance of small businesses and how they drive 2/3 of all jobs in this country. Is Illinois losing business? Is Chicago losing business because of these restrictions?
Absolutely, and I can tell you a story. Sarah Travis had a great idea for a business that she really wanted to launch here in Chicago. She worked with people to design a cool bicycle trailer with kegs where she could serve iced coffee or iced tea. It's called the Brew Hub. And she had visions to expand this business like a tech startup. Grow fast. She was going to create manufacturing jobs here in Chicago. People were going to be building these trailers. She was going to create a green business that was a healthy job for the people riding these bicycles. But there's no law that allows people to sell food from non-motorized vehicles. We're not allowing people to set up the most basic food business that's most affordable for poor entrepreneurs and to serve people in poor neighborhoods.
Where did that business go?
She took her business to Austin, Texas. She's still hoping that the law will change here in Chicago so she can come back home. And we at the IJ Clinic are working hard to legalize food carts and street vendors. But it's ridiculously slow, and that's holding back the entrepreneurs, and it's holding back our neighborhoods.
Now, the state just elected a very pro-business governor. Where will he have to start to open the doors to entrepreneurship here, given what we're dealing with?
Well, he's really got to strip away all of these layers of historical regulation. The state can save money by pulling away these inspectors and these boards. We don't need to have so many people certifying barbers. We don't need barbers to go to school for 1,500 hours before they can shampoo or cut hair. If we can save that money, we can also make more money because it will be easier for people to start business fast and contribute to the economy, create jobs.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Beth Krieger, we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Now here's a look at some of the stories making headlines this week.
Governor Quinn's final acts in office are raising questions about his reformer image. Questionable business deals and high-paying job appointments for political pals are just some of the parting gifts he'll leave incoming Governor Bruce Rauner.
Even if he would clean that up, he's still taking over a mess. I think Illinois is a mess.
How will this impact Governor Quinn's legacy and his future? She was one of a kind. Illinois said farewell and thank you to the woman President Obama called a political institution. Comptroller Judy Baar Topinka died last week after suffering a stroke. She just won another term in office. Some want her assistant Nancy Kimmy to fill the job short term.
She'd serve well, would serve the people well, and then we can take our time and pick the right person to serve out the 4-year term.
Who should choose a replacement, the governor or voters? And should recording the police be a crime? The Illinois Supreme Court struck down a state ban on recording police, but lawmakers are now pushing another similar measure.
I think it is for everybody's protection, not just for the citizens, but also for the police, that things get documented.
I think that videotaping and other recording means allow us as non-police to keep them accountable.
Joining us today to discuss these topics and more are Mays Jackson, Executive Director of the Illinois Legislative Black Caucus Foundation, Ann Kavanaugh, President for Media Pros 24/7, and Jacob Hubert, Senior Attorney at the Liberty Justice Center and author of Libertarianism Today. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat Quinn, our governor's leaving office with a flurry of political appointments and some questionable business deals. Would the man who took office as a reformer in 2009 recognize the man who's leaving office now, Ann?
I don't think so, and it's sad because this is not the Pat Quinn that we all know. And I don't know why he's doing this. You know, appointments to politicians are, well, I think Blagojevich put it best. They're golden. And sometimes they can't help themselves.
He didn't exactly say that.
Well, he was a little more colorful in his language. But you know, there's something about appointments that, you know, politicians just have a hard time with, distinguishing what is right and what is wrong. But if I were talking to Pat, I'd say, you know, think of your legacy, think of your reputation, and scale it back.
You know, I tend to think of it differently. I think that when you think of a person like Pat Quinn, he probably thinks of himself as helping or assisting some people. And so I think that Pat Quinn is no different than any other elected official. At the end of your run, you want to make sure that some piece of your legacy is still there. And I think that there are probably some jobs that Pat Quinn feels like he hasn't been able to complete. And I know particularly at the Illinois Sports Facility Authority, where he appointed his campaign manager, I think he's got some business he wants to finish there. And I think that's probably why he did that.
But it looks so bad. And he always sold himself as he's not just another politician. He was different. And now he's acting like just another politician.
I think that he's an elected official, and I think at the point in which you hold him to a higher standard than any other political elected official, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Well, I mean, if we're going to hold him to the standards we're used to, we should just be thankful he didn't go to jail, I guess. but you know, and it didn't just start with these appointments here in November or December. We saw this in October too, when he was looked like he was struggling to get reelected. He started handing out grants all over the state, more than $34 million in grants to various businesses to create the impression of job creation. Pure cronyism, purely political, and it's politics as usual in Illinois. And I hope we can see change with that with a new governor, but history doesn't give us a whole lot of cause for optimism. We'll see.
Well, with this appointment of Lou Bertucca, his campaign manager, Lou, is engaged to Brooke Anderson, his former communications manager. Some have referred to this snarkily as a wedding gift. But what about Quinn's legacy?
Was it on the registry?
He's been viewed as a populist, a regular guy.
I think it does hurt his legacy, and I think it's too bad, because why ruin basically a wonderful career of public service? Why ruin it in this last month in office by looking, at the very least, small? It's like he's trying to stick it to Rauner. And I know it was a tough election, and I know he had a hard time with the results, but let's rise above that, Pat.
Well, I mean, what legacy? I mean, he's leaving office with a huge pension problem unsolved. He's leaving office with a state with an economy in terrible condition. I mean, there's no real legacy to preserve in any event, but you could at least go out with creating the impression of integrity.
Well, I think he does have a legacy in Illinois, though, over a 30-year career as a reformer and as a fighter for the little guy. And not a typical politician. And I think he's ruining that right now.
Now, the rumors are swirling that he may run for Mark Kirk's seat in 2016. Could his last actions in office damage that? You know,
I've heard that he's trying to appoint an African-American female to that position with the hopes of garnering some long-term positive feelings with the African-American community. But I don't think that it'll work.
Well, the name that's been bantered around is Stephanie Neely, the former treasurer of Chicago, who just left to go to the private sector, but I've heard that she's not interested.
Well, we'll have to keep our eyes peeled for that. We'll switch gears. Speaking of losses, we lost a one-of-a-kind public servant last week, Illinois comptroller Judy Baar Topinka. She died at age 70 after a stroke, leaving some big shoes to fill and 2 terms to fill. This term that she was currently filling and the next term that she was elected to, which starts in January. Who should replace her? Should they be elected, appointed? Jacob?
Well, the Attorney General has spelled out exactly how this should go, and I think the Attorney General has it right, that Governor Quinn has the authority to appoint somebody now until Governor-elect Rauner takes office, and then Governor-elect Rauner has the authority to appoint somebody at that point. And the Attorney General suggested we should have a special election in 2016. The law as it stands doesn't call for that. I don't know that there is a need for that, particularly when the Constitution already spells out how this should play out. And it doesn't call for a special election. Elections cost a lot of money. I'm not sure that that's necessary, but you know, we'll have someone in the short term. We'll have someone appointed for the longer term, and I think that's fine.
I think that I agree with that, but I do believe that there is going to probably be a special election. I think that when there is an opportunity to give people the opportunity to make a choice, and we do have that, there will be a statewide election in 2016, which are the state representatives. So I do think we have a great opportunity to give the people the opportunity to have their say, but I do believe that Governor Rauner should have the opportunity to appoint. And quite frankly, I think the Republicans won, so if they did get to keep it for the 4 years, I don't think that it would be that bad of a thing.
I hope that in the next 2 years, legislators can get their act together and eliminate this office to begin with. That's what Judy Baar Topinka always said, and she served as treasurer and as comptroller, and she said we don't need both offices. And it would save money, it would streamline government, and I think it would be a nice tip of the hat to her legacy to follow her wishes.
It's one less opportunity for somebody to be elected and to grow their political stock. I think it sounds good, but I don't think they're going to get rid of that office.
Well, there was a bill in the Senate that actually passed the Senate to get rid of it, and then it failed in the House because of Speaker Madison. He said, Speaker Madigan, sorry. He said he was concerned because it would give too much power to the Treasurer's office. Kind of funny coming from him about being worried about too much power.
That is, you just wonder, though, because that's something that she even advocated for. She said it would save about $14 million a year. The comptroller's position is basically someone who keeps the train running on time, someone who pays the bills.
Well, I think that I don't foresee those offices being merged in the very near future. I just don't think that'll happen.
Well, the fact that it won't happen is exactly what's wrong with Illinois, right? It's there for somebody to have that political opportunity, for somebody else to get elected to office, for somebody else to do favors for their friends. The reason why it's likely to stay is exactly why we need to get rid of it and why people should insist on it.
Unless you've ever had to wait on a check from the state. And so at the point in which you've had to wait on a check, if you're a state vendor, you're very thankful that the two offices are separate. And the comptroller has been very efficient in ensuring that those checks get paid to people to keep services running.
Well, make the treasurer's office better. I mean, I don't think the answer is to have another office. I just think, you know, I take Judy's word for it. She ran both offices, and if she thinks they can be consolidated, then I'll have to follow and give her the last word on that. She knows more than me.
Switching gears again, we'll move over to this eavesdropping law. There's a bill sitting on Pat Quinn's desk. Both houses of the legislature have approved it so far. It's raising a lot of questions about privacy. The Illinois Supreme Court struck down an eavesdropping law that made it a felony to record police. And lawmakers have come up with another measure that is similar but not the same. Mays, is this new law a good idea?
You know, I'm going to tell you, I don't know about the new law. What I do know is that I just want to make sure that, particularly for African Americans, that we have the ability to record these incidents that are happening. Anything that bars us from being able to record and protect our rights, I am definitely against. I think that there is a lot of misinformation on Senate Bill 1342 currently because it does create the confusion that people don't have the opportunity to record police. As it relates to the private matters, I think that's a little further down that we'll probably have to address more in depth. But I think as long as we have the right to record police officers as they are taking their action as police officers, I'm all for it.
Yeah, there have been problems with the vagueness of this law, right, Jacob?
Here's the problem with it. The law makes it, in general, illegal to record a conversation unless everyone in that conversation has consented or no one in that conversation has a reasonable expectation of privacy. And the Illinois Supreme Court has said that the police doing their duties in public don't have a reasonable expectation of privacy, which should mean that when the police are doing their duties in public, you can record them under this law. The problem is, we don't know when else you can record them. What about in a private place? What about you're in somebody else's house and the police come in? Can you record them then? It's not clear to people. And to figure this out, you really would need to be a lawyer who can consult the whole body of case law statewide and nationwide on who has an expectation of privacy and when. And that's not a reasonable thing to expect an ordinary citizen to figure out when they're trying to figure out when can I record, and how can I be sure that I don't go to jail?
Well, I think though, I think I have a unique perspective as being an African American. I think that you're way down the path. I think that the first thing that we're concerned about is when we see someone that we know getting choked out or about to be killed, can we record that and use that as evidence? I think when you get further down into the case law, I think that's fine. But I think right now the priority, and I think the uproar, particularly in the community that I particularly work with, is they want to make sure that we have the ability to protect each other and protect ourselves when something in public is happening, which has been happening here lately.
Well, right, and we have an issue with that. We have obviously the case in New York, and then we had a case just over the border in Hammond where a 14-year-old boy recorded the police tasering his stepdad, and here in Illinois that would have been illegal. So I agree with you. It's really important that we get a good law in the books so people know their rights and can protect themselves. But maybe this law isn't it. If it's that confusing, either it's not being communicated to the public correctly, or it's not written well. And
The
maybe
authors
we
of-
just have to, fix it.
The authors of the law say basically they put this measure forward because they were concerned about people being surreptitiously recorded. But when do you have a reasonable expectation of privacy?
Well, I mean, courts disagree, lawyers disagree, so I don't know how a citizen is supposed to know that. And that's the problem for those people who want to be able to record the police and not have to stop and think, is it okay in this setting? The law should just be clear. You can always do it. You can always record your own interaction with the police or with any government official. Why can't you just spell that out clearly in the law so everybody knows? Because if it's not clear, what you're going to do is you're going to not record because you don't want to go to jail.
So Jacob, you're saying with public officials and law enforcement, you should be able to do it whenever you want, but not in private conversations.
Well, that's at least a different discussion. You know, most states do have what they call one-party consent, where you can always record your conversation with anybody else, and it's not a crime. I think that's reasonable because that facilitates certain things, like investigative journalists can go into a shady business and record what's going on there. Whereas if the person knew they were recording, then the thing wouldn't happen and you wouldn't be able to prove it. Or somebody whose boss is harassing them, it gives them the opportunity to have proof that goes on. So that can actually be a good thing. And we can have other protections in the law for when, say, you record a private conversation and then publicize it. You could have a cause of action where you sue somebody for violating your privacy when that sort of thing happens. And that might be more reasonable. But making it a crime seems pretty extreme.
Well, we'll have to leave it there. Plenty to talk about. Sounds like this new law may need a little bit of work. We'd like to thank our guests, Maze Jackson, Ann Kavanaugh, and Jacob Hubert. And in this holiday season, we'd like to thank you for joining us each week on In the Loop. Tonight, the folks who work hard bringing you this show want to extend their gratitude and their greetings. Here now are the faces and voices of WYCC.
Hi, I'm Ron Schofield, Executive Director of Media Services. I'd like to wish you and your family a happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Greg Burnett. I'm an editor and cameraman for In the Loop. Wishing you happy holidays.
Hi, my name is Saul Melendez. I'm one of the editors for In the Loop. Feliz Navidad.
Hi guys, it's Brian, the production manager. Working hard to give you some holiday cheer. Happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Shelley Spencer, supervising producer, wishing you and your family a warm and wonderful holiday season.
Hi, it's Greg King, producer on WYCC's In the Loop program. I just want to wish you and your family a very happy holiday.
Hi, I'm Melissa Howery, a graphic artist here in The Loop. Just want to say happy holidays to you and yours.
On behalf of the entire WYCC staff, I want to wish you all, the viewers, happy holidays. I'm Mario Tharp, senior producer of In the Loop.
Hello, I'm Cindy Syperic, Director of Programming, and I wanted to wish everyone a happy Hanukkah, a Merry Christmas, joyous Kwanzaa, and a Happy New Year.
Hi, I'm Deshaun Smith, one of the engineers and also the technical director for In the Loop. I want to wish you and yours a happy and safe holidays.
Hi, I'm Felix Mendez with WYCC and In the Loop, one of the cameramen, wishing you and your family a happy holidays.
Hi, I'm Erasmo Rivera, videographer, lighting director here at WYCC. We'd like to wish you and your family a happy holiday and a happy new year.
Hi, I'm Paul Buckner. On behalf of the staff here at In the Loop, we'd like to wish you and your family a very happy holidays.
Now that you've met our WYCC family, we'd like to wish you a happy holidays from our house to yours. Before we close, we invite you to log on to hear more from Marianne Markowitz with the Small Business Administration and Maria Guerra-Lepasic from the City of Chicago, offering more tips for opening a small business. Well, that does it for this week's show. For Chris Bury and the rest of us, I'm Barbara Pinto, wishing you a joyous holiday season. Good night.